Okay, so this week we received a really detailed, very critical breakdown of a content creator's second response to some pretty serious allegations.
Yeah, the one on her podcast where she was also promoting that new live tour.
Exact. The analysis is sharp, but we think we can make it even more powerful. Let's get into it.
Great.
So, the raw analysis is phenomenal. I mean, it really deconstructs her deceit. But the first thing we need to talk about is structure. The crucial analytical momentum of the critique is compromised by the placement and length of non-core segments, and it's leading to some severe disruptions in pacing and flow.
That momentum is everything, isn't it?
It is.
Because you're setting up this high-stakes examination. You start this deep dive into her manipulative behavior, her claims, and then it's almost immediately cut off by this huge, long sponsor segment.
Oh, the Christmas shopping one.
Yes! The extra smart card holder, the travel pack vacuum kit. I mean, it goes on for several minutes.
It's completely jarring. You build all this tension, you're ready for this forensic analysis, and then you just slam on the brakes for a commercial.
It just signals to the listener that, this important critique can wait, which is the exact opposite of what you want to convey.
Right. The commercial stuff is fine, obviously, but the timing just destroys the entire critical thrust you've been building.
And it's not just the sponsor read, is it? There are also those emotional tangents.
The ones about other controversial creators?
Yeah, like the quick mention of Unassian's echo chamber, or that whole bit about James Charles and Jeffree Star.
They're interesting parallels for sure, but they just fracture the focus. The whole point is to build this undeniable case against her specific strategy.
And every time you divert, whether it's for a holiday deal or another creator's drama, you lose the audience's focus. You let the pressure off.
Exactly. She knows how to distract, and the critique itself needs to be immune to that.
So our suggestion here is pretty straightforward.
Resequence the video structure to front-load or back-load all that essential non-analytical material. Just get it out of the way so the breakdown of her contradictions can flow completely uninterrupted. That's how you build an undeniable case.
And for some concrete examples, this is super actionable. That whole Exta sponsor spot.
With the code INABA for up to 64% off?
Yes, that whole piece. Move it to the very, very end of the video. After the conclusion, after the summary. Let the argument land first.
And then for the tangents?
Edit them down or just remove them. Things like, I hate my audience, or discussing who can't come back from things. It's genuine, I get it, but it pulls focus.
It makes it about the presenter's feelings, not the subject's action.
Right, keep it laser sharp.
That structural fix is so important because it feeds directly into the authority of the piece, which brings us to the language. I mean, the analysis is there, but there's a huge opportunity here. The analytical rigor of the critique is occasionally undermined by highly charged emotional language, which risks validating the subject's own narrative of being unfairly targeted by mass hate.
This is such a delicate balance. The material is great at identifying the deceit, like using her kids as a shield, or the timing with the, $50 to $80 tour tickets?
Yeah.
And that stuff should make you angry. But the critique often shifts from dissecting that to just broad emotional reactions. We hear absolute load of manipulation or so embarrassing over and over.
Loadabolics was another one.
Right, and here's the problem with that. The subject's whole defense is framing criticism as mass hate from people who are just going low.
So when the critique itself leans on that kind of emotional language, you're basically handing her a tool.
Exactly. You make yourself vulnerable to her exact line of defense, that this isn't a reasoned argument, it's just hatred. We have to deny her that escape route.
I do wonder, though, if the audience sort of expects that emotional Isn't part of the appeal sharing that sense of outrage?
That's a really fair point.
Like, if you strip all of that out, does it just become cold and academic?
I don't think so. The audience definitely shares the frustration. But our job as the critic is to channel that into surgical precision, not just, echo the feeling back at them.
So you're saying the evidence itself should be what makes the audience outraged?
Precisely. Let the evidence do the work. We're not saying remove the conviction. We're saying replace those generalized emotional outbursts with an even greater focus on the clinical deconstruction of her own words. It makes the position unassailable.
You become the impartial judge letting the damning evidence speak for itself.
Exactly. For a concrete example, let's look at that core contradiction. She says, I don't blame anyone but me.
While at the same time saying the headlines aren't true.
Yes. Instead of calling that embarrassing, just amplify the contradiction. Put those two things right next to each other.
So you'd show the clip of her saying she's a grown woman taking responsibility.
And immediately follow it with the detailed accounts where she blames her PR team for every single misstep.
The source material is perfect for this. She blames them for the Barbie shirt, the backyard being too big, the podcast room.
And even for approving the ukulele response in the first place.
Think about how powerful that is. Just that direct comparison. I take full responsibility, followed immediately by a list of 5 ways her team failed her.
It's way more devastating than just calling it embarrassing. You let her own words do all the heavy lifting.
Right. That shift from a judgmental descriptor to a forensic comparison. That's how you protect the analysis.
It makes the whole critique impervious to accusations of hate. And it elevates the work from just pointing out lies to explaining the why, the strategy behind it all.
Which leads us perfectly into our final and I think most important area for improvement.
I agree.
The material does a fantastic job of identifying all these individual manipulative moments. But here's the next level. The material identifies numerous instances of manipulation, but synthesizing these contradictions into a cohesive model of the subject's defensive strategy will maximize the so what factor of the critique.
Right now, it kind of feels like a list. We get blaming the PR team, claiming sensory issues, the weird Peter Pan analogy.
The Patreon echo chamber.
Yeah, all of that. But they're treated as like a sequence of separate bad decisions, not as components of one unified, high-stakes campaign to rewrite her narrative for her core fan.
And that fragmented approach misses the big picture, which is the calculated nature of this whole thing.
Especially when she literally says, I'm not smart enough to be that manipulative.
Right. By showing it's all part of a strategy, you directly refute that claim. You prove this was a campaign, not just a series of blunders.
And without that model, there's a risk that the sheer number of lies just becomes noise, right? It's overwhelming.
It is. So the suggestion is to unify all these deceptions into 2 clear categories. It will expose the comprehensive, self-serving strategy behind a response and make the whole thing impossible to dismiss.
We're moving from just reporting on the lies to exposing the grand strategy. That's the leap that makes a critique definitive.
So, okay, let's build that. The most actionable way to do this is to synthesize everything into 2 buckets. The first could be,
How about something like Category 1, the externalizing blame strategy?
oh, that's perfect. It groups every instance where the blame is pushed away from her.
So that's the PR team for the Barbie shirt, the backyard shot, the ukulele video, all of it.
But it's also the more subtle stuff, like suggesting the audience outside her Patreon wouldn't be supportive.
Which shifts blame onto critics and the hostile internet.
And also, her just vaguely saying things aren't true without ever specifying what. That's a classic move.
It forces the critics to defend reality instead of her having to defend her actions. Okay, so that's the first category.
And then, for the second, we need the other side of that coin.
Right. Category 2, the internalizing victimhood strategy.
Yes. This connects all her attempts to get sympathy, to position herself as this selfless, protective parent.
So you'd group the stress, the crying, which was in a very private controlled setting, the sudden claim of sensory issues.
And you absolutely have to include that bizarre Hook movie analogy.
Oh, the Peter Pan thing. That was incredible. She's Peter Pan saving the kids in the net from Hook, who is the internet.
It's the perfect anchor for this victimhood strategy. It reframes the whole scandal. It's not about her accountability anymore.
It's about her being a hero, a martyr, driven by parental fear.
Exactly. And the ultimate goal is to frame this entire response, from the first non-apology to this one, as a calculated effort to clear the path for the live tour.
So every single move is either pushing guilt away or manufacturing victimhood, all to justify breaking her silence right when there's a big payday on the line.
And that synthesis, that model, elevates the entire critique. It's no longer a list of her lies. It's an expose of a comprehensive defensive campaign.
It gives the audience a lens to analyze everything she does from now on. It completely maximizes that so what factor. The original investigation is brilliant, but this framework just makes it a masterclass.
So, to quickly summarize the actionable steps. First, streamline the flow. Isolate those non-core segments.
Move the tangents and the sponsors to the end. Keep that analytical momentum going.
Second, sharpen the analytical tone. Cut way back on the emotional commentary and replace it with a more clinical, forensic deconstruction of her contradiction.
Let the facts do the talking.
And finally, synthesize those discrete lies into a unified model of her manipulative strategy.
Use those 2 categories, externalizing blame and internalizing victimhood. It exposes how calculated the whole thing really was.
The material you sent in is already so strong. I mean, the facts are there, the analysis of the manipulation is spot on.
Absolutely. These suggestions are just about bolstering that structure and impact to create this unassailable critique that just can't be dismissed as hate.
We are really looking forward to seeing the revised version. Please feel free to submit your work back in for a follow-up once you've had a chance to implement these